I want to talk about change and change management, and specifically resistance to change. So one of the things we face quite regularly is that people don't want to change. It just sounds almost like a truism. It sounds obvious, but it is the reality for most businesses going through any kind of transformation. And when it comes to the HubSpot adoption gap, it's something that you better get sorted quickly. I'm Tony, and I help businesses close the HubSpot adoption gap. That is, close the space between buying HubSpot and using it successfully in your business. In this video, we'll look at why people are resistant to change and what you can do about it. If you want to learn more about our services, take a look at the links in the description. If you're wondering why, after spending a fortune on HubSpot, why the expected growth hasn't happened, you've come to the right place. If your teams don't adopt HubSpot, then there's very little chance there's going to have any impact on your business whatsoever. And the main reason they don't adopt it? They don't want to adopt it. According to an article I found on LinkedIn by executive coach Kylie Denton, there are 7 main reasons why people don't like change. Number 1, they think it means more work. Number 2, they have a loss of control or a sense of a loss of control. Number 3, uncertainty. Better the devil you know. 4 is a fear of failure. 5, doubts that the program will work, perhaps because of previous failures. 6, they don't see a problem with the existing process. And 7, not much trust in the organization's ability to successfully manage the change. But in my experience, it's more fundamental than that. We are actually biologically wired to resist change. It's part of our makeup. It's part of our survival instinct. You see, human beings crave certainty. We crave knowing what's going to happen. And on the other side, uncertainty makes us feel very unsafe. When we don't know what's about to charge out of the woods and eat us, we don't know what's going to come out of the dark and attack us, we feel very uncomfortable. So anytime there's uncertainty in our work or in our life, it makes us deeply, deeply uncomfortable. So we literally work as hard as we can to resist change, to keep things certain. It's wired into our evolutionary DNA. So underneath all of the rationalization that you hear about resistance to change is that extremely fundamental, DNA-driven survival instinct. The problem is, we really have to change it when it comes to managing our businesses and when it comes to driving transformation and innovation through the business. For instance, introducing a CRM like HubSpot is going to have an enormous impact on the business in a positive way, but it's also a massive change. Hence, one of the main things we have to deal with quickly is the resistance to that change. So from a management perspective and a team's perspective, we have to come up with a rational argument for change and deal with this emotional instinct level resistance to change as well. The first step, I think, is appreciating that this resistance is there. No matter what people say, they are resistant to change. Whenever somebody says to me in practice, I'm really open to change, or my team is open to change, I take it as a warning flag that really they're not. It may sound a little bit cynical, but it's often the case that people who talk about it in those terms are the ones who are really, really worried about it. This is linked to their feelings of consistency and therefore safety. So you're looking at a change environment where maybe other things are going on, not just the introduction of HubSpot or some new processes, maybe there are job losses and so on. People are extremely uncomfortable. That means one of the first things you have to deal with is this culture, is this feeling people have in their work. So the most important step is to create a culture within which change can occur. Think of it as an underlying or a background effect of the work that you'll do to improve people's position when it comes to their ability to undertake change and to enjoy change and to embrace change. And the first aspect we must embrace is this safety aspect. We have to create a culture where people feel safe in experimentation, feel safe in their ability to learn and to make mistakes, feel safe throughout the whole process. When they're changing, they will be extremely vulnerable, and as we've discussed, the survival instincts will kick in, and they'll be extremely uncomfortable. They need reassurance, support, and above all, they need to know that their management, their leadership, trusts them to make the right decisions to eventually get to where they're going to get to. They have to have this feeling of security Otherwise, the resistance to change will not be overcome. How do you feel when you're uncertain? Does it make you uncomfortable? Does it make you resistant to change? Let me know in the comments. Perhaps you've got a story that you could share that would help other people. So we have to create this environment where people feel safe and they feel enabled to undertake the change in a way that they're not going to be harmed by, in a way that's not going to have any negative consequences for them. But that's only one part of the problem. The second aspect of building a culture within which change can occur is the aspect of meaning or purpose. People have to know why they're being expected to change. Think about this uncertainty, think about the survival instinct. Consequently, there must be a really strong reason, or at least a reason that people really buy into in order to push themselves through this process. Otherwise, once again, that resistance becomes incredibly strong. If you've read the brilliant book Drive, The Surprising Science of Motivation by Dan Pink, you'll know that once we push things like salary off the table, people are motivated in work by autonomy, mastery, and purpose. There's that word again, purpose, the meaning, being part of a bigger thing. It's often very useful to paint a picture as to why the change is so important in the first place, in order for people to feel part of this bigger, more important thing. Having a purpose in what we do in work and in life generally is highly motivating, produces an enormous amount of drive. So when we manage to combine these two pillars, the pillar of safety, emotional safety, and the pillar of meaning or purpose for the change, we really are moving very, very quickly towards creating this culture within which change can occur. Now all the practical aspects of change management can happily be deployed because we've created an environment in which that change can happen. If we don't create the environment, then it doesn't really matter how good the program of change is or how well managed or incentivized it is. It's going to be extremely difficult to see it result in any success. It's often said that transformation is top-down, and this is the reason for why that is the case. Leadership creates the culture in which a business exists, or it doesn't create the culture, in which case a culture can take over. So good leadership promotes good culture. And in the case of change management, it creates a culture of change. It creates a culture where people feel safe to make the changes, as we've discussed, and feel like the changes have real meaning, there's a real purpose to the changes. If leadership fail to create these pillars of change, they fail to make people feel safe when it comes to the change, and they fail to explain to people why the change is taking place, it's going to be extremely difficult to see success in the change management process, no matter how well it's managed and how much it's incentivized, how well people are trained, and so on. The uncertainty hits us, the uncertainty makes us scared, that makes us resist the change as strongly as we possibly can. And most of the time, we might not even realize why. At Real Inbound, we often work with teams on closing the adoption gap or implementing HubSpot properly, and we can often help with this aspect of the cultural change as well. We can help you work out how to make people feel safe. We can help you work out how to sell your change message throughout the business, as well as doing the more practical things like the training and the incentive programs and so on. We can help you create the strategy for change. That is to build your sales and marketing programs into HubSpot, use the analytics to create a management control system that allows you to run the program and make sure the outcomes are as you desire. We can help you map systems and processes and improve them as they go into HubSpot so that you see in the benefits of efficiencies from the digitalization that you're undergoing. But we can also help you create that environment which is going to allow change to happen with as little resistance as possible. Always think safety and purpose. Do people feel safe, and do they feel engaged? Do they feel motivated to support the change? You can download our resources in the channel descriptions about our adoption gap framework and how we approach the strategy of change management for your business. Or we're always happy for a chat. Reach out, connect with us here on LinkedIn or on Substack, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Or drop a comment and let me know if you'd be interested in finding out more about how we can support you. You'll also find me talking about the adoption gap on LinkedIn, and as I mentioned on our podcast, HubSpot is not a strategy, on Substack.